beautiful goddamn thing. I'm loving this macros shindig. So, meal one is going down. 2 bagel thins, 6 slices of the good stuff, bacon, 1 kiwi, nice big cherry tomatoes, and 40 grams of whey. Today is Thursday. The show was Sunday, so about 4 days post-show. Weight's coming down nicely. I'm down to 98.6. I did shoot up way over 100 kilos. The water retention hit me hard. I literally smashed like over 10,000 calories on the Monday after the show. And I literally blew up like a water balloon. I was a water boy. So, yeah, weight's coming down now though. Been sticking to the macros that Cal sent me, which is on a training day, 300 protein, 500 carb, 50 fat, and non-training days is 300 protein, 350 carb, and 80 fat. So it's been really good. I think it's one of them things that you really need to focus on post-show, the importance of making sure that you're not craving food and binging excessively, because otherwise, you know, that water weight that you gain and just body fat, it's just, it gets a bit of a mess, man. The fact that Cal's given me macros, and I'm actually using my Fitness Pal now, which I've never used. So I've got the ability to sort of eat what foods I want just within my macros, which is actually pretty easy. And what I've found that I'm doing is that I'm doing 5 meals a day instead of 6, so that I have more macros to play with per meal. So I can kind of do what I want, like do a little bit more with the meals and make them a little bit more interesting. And I've been sticking to it, and things are coming down. Abs were back in this morning, everything's looking good, lines are all back. So by this weekend I should be back down to a good baseline. I will be ready to start pushing the calories. So it's all good, feeling good. Got back today. Today we're going to be sitting down with Cal and we're going to be doing the off-season setup. So we'll show you that. And yeah, let the day commence. The Muscle Mentors online physique specialist at Callum _ the Muscle Mentors. That's the introduction. Let's do this. Oh, did you hear that? I think I just broke the suitcase. I really need to get a chair. What up, bruh?
How's everything going, alright?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Been on it the last couple of days. The water is coming off quick.
£8 you said overnight?
Like £10. I went up like to like 105, man, from that pizza. I ate a lot.
Was that was 105 on Tuesday morning then?
Tuesday morning, yeah. I was like, I couldn't open my eyes.
Coming out of that period of time where, you know, the end of prep is pretty damn restrictive on those fronts. So coming out of that period of time and just giving you a little bit of freedom back, I think is a really positive thing, just to set your mind in the right place for the rest of the off season. Because, you know, if you look like, if you ask yourself that question like in 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks time, you don't really have any food focus at that point in prep, at that point in the off season, because your food's already high enough. And as prep, that's where that kind of leptin, ghrelin skewing is stabilized again, so you're back to pretty much normal. Whereas you know, the first week post show and a couple of weeks after that, your head's in a pretty strange place in that regard. So removing the restriction, I think, is a really powerful thing. Yeah,
like I say, I normally don't even train after a show. I normally just everything's done. So it was nice to get back in the gym yesterday, and I didn't really even need to train that hard. I was just like 2-3 reps in reserve sort of thing, and I blew up like crazy, you know, ready to transition to a proper off season. I say I haven't done a proper off season for, like, I've only ever had 6 months a year to grow, because I've been competing every year. Well, I lie. I had 1 year, but I partied all year. I'm not gonna hold my hands up. I partied all year. I trained maybe 4 times a week, and I just didn't. At that point, I didn't know that bodybuilding was really I was gonna really take it this far, you know. And so now's the time to put in a serious off season, and yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
The big kind of take home from the weekend was the gap that needs to be closed in terms of musculature from where we are now relative to, you know, where you need to be to kind of even just get a first call out in that pro circuit. And it's looking at, you know, your attributes as an athlete and what shined on stage relative to what necessarily wasn't carried through as well as it could be. And a lot of the stuff that hurt us was stuff that just comes with time. Like it's just a case of carrying the muscle into those final stages of prep, but having it there before you start dieting.
Yeah.
Based on the look that we went down to moving into the back end of that week, like from a conditioning perspective, you kind of left no stone unturned there in terms of what you delivered from a conditioning standpoint.
There's still fucking potentially a solid. I'm still thinking there could be a solid 20 pounds of muscle to gain before I'm at that cap.
That first impression counts. And when I say that, it's just the ability to hit that front relax.
Yeah.
And just be presence.
Yeah.
And that's only going to come when we get to that top end of that cap.
Yeah. Like you say, even condition is not enough, man. Because I looked at pictures of Mike. Like I've got the photos, and I proper analysed them. And I know you can't always go off pictures, but obviously I see him in person as well. I was 100% more conditioned than him, like 100%. But doesn't matter because he was still in shape. It's not like he was out of shape. He was still in shape. He still had peeled glutes and stuff like that. But he's just got so much more muscle, man. They all do. It's that presence, isn't it? I looked along the line. I was looking at one of the videos I had. It's like the introduction bit when we was just all standing in the lineup and we came out and done them 2 poses, and you can just see I look like an athlete compared to them, not a bodybuilder. In the gym, I look huge to the guys next to me, and that's the problem, because you're always getting fed like, oh man, you put so much size on, man, you put so much size on, oh, you're gonna do so well, like you've got this extra size now and it's classic and it's all about flow and shape. And I've been telling people for ages, I'm like, I don't think you get how big these boys are. And then it's kind of just been reaffirmed with this show that, like, yeah, these guys are fucking massive, man. I need the size. I don't just want to travel around to shit shows that have 5 guys on lineup, just like it's not the one. I want to turn up to shows knowing that I'm beating guys who are already at the Olympia.
Yeah, 100%. So the next 4 weeks of training, steady, low volume approach, keeping the body in a good place recovery-wise. Yeah. Obviously, we're having a bit of a clear out post prep as well in terms of pulling that total androgen load down. We're going to drop into a physiological cruise. So the next kind of 6 to 8 weeks of just getting John's blood work back into a great place. And by the time we get to the end of December, we really want him in a position where blood work is flawless and we're ready to take a full year to progress there. Yeah. To be fair, like in the grand scheme of things, the usage that we'd used in prep was relatively tame as well in the grand scheme. So we haven't kind of pushed the envelope too hard there. So I think there's definitely scope to move where we want to move to in future. But the next couple of months are really just a case of getting you back to a perfect set point to grow from and getting you healthy. Yeah. And that's physical and psychological as well. Just as well as I do post prep. A lot of this now is nurturing where your head's at with the process, where your head's at with your diet and your relationship with food, and just building solid foundations to move forwards to. Because I think potentially, from the sounds of it, the past preps, have been more troublesome and complex in that area. So we're going to make a real effort to make that as smooth as possible this time.
Yeah. In terms of like stuff when we get into training plan and training, we're going back to some bread and butter movements?
Yeah, so obviously the back end of prep, I think there's probably 2 ways of doing this, 2 ways of viewing this. The back end of prep, we obviously had the situation with your knee, which obviously restricted us from loading the lower body as well as we could have done back in that last phase of prep.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then it's like, when you're in the deficit, it's also it's like a trade-off game where you pick more neurally taxing movements that are going to have a bigger impact on recovery, and you've got to look at like the risk to reward at the back end of prep. Whereas now we're in the off season where your food's high, your body's under a lot less stress, you're recovering well, you're sleeping well. All those cards are aligned in the right direction. So from a training standpoint, 100%. There'll be movements program back in now. The if you want to call them the bigger kind of bread and butter movements, that we can start getting back into your hip hinging, and we can start progressing those bigger movement patterns that are essentially there to just drive as much mechanical tension as possible and overload that over time. Yeah. But at the back end of prep for you, like, where did you feel as though, and this is an interesting point, like in previous preps as well, it might have changed this time around, but where do you feel as though faded the most in the back end of the dart this time around?
What faded?
In terms of like muscularity, like what do you see potentially drop off a little bit in terms of fullness being held or tissue being held in any specific area of this prep?
Well, obviously the quads definitely, because because of the knee. Like I think we managed to bring back a decent amount of fullness, but you know what? I don't actually think my quads were any better at all than last year, because remember I said like I took time off training my quads. I literally trained my quads 3 times in 12 months throughout that COVID throughout COVID. I think that damaged me a little bit, looking at pictures like at this prep compared to last prep. I don't think my quads really showed much progression at all, you know, because I felt like I didn't need it. And I think it done me well, because I think it's balanced my physique out more, because it's helped me bring up that upper body. But yeah, I don't think the quads were quite like what they could be. I know if I train my quads full blown, I think my quads can be quite I don't know, like a special body part for me. I know my quads can really blow up, you know. But I think my chest, man, I always just feel like my chest just starts to fade. Like other than that, I feel like it's just my chest. I feel like it just, as it gets more and more peeled, it just really I just don't have that thickness that a lot of the other guys have. Like the chest and delts, man, just need to be, I don't know if they faded. I think I just need a lot more tissue.
I think, yeah, to be fair, I was pretty impressed with how much your back held in the prep, even at the lower body weight set points.
Yeah.
I think your back's going to grow by default anyway, and I think we can also definitely drive more tissue onto that kind of lower thoracolumbar fascia, like lumbar area of the back as well. So we look at the detail that you have and that kind of level of crispness and hardness that you have through the lower back. I think pulling some more tissue on your erectors by kind of loading through hip flexion and hinging. Different variations of hinges, I think is going to be really valuable in the next 18 months. Yeah,
I agree. I'm going to get a logbook, bruv.
Yeah, so I saw.
I'm going to do this. I'm going fully in.
Using cuffs. He's using logbook. He's using my fitness pal. This is freedom job.
It's just Vibrams is my line, man. I'm going Crocs. You know, yeah. Vibrams is the line. It's not happening. Crocs is the one. But it's like some people have said, "Oh, your tan was light again." It's like, nah, because I've looked back at the live stream. I'm like, my tan isn't light. Like the tan for the color we used was a great tan, but it was against just a darker tan, you know. Yeah. It's dry as a bone. I didn't sweat or nothing.
There's literally no fluid in your body.
Oh yeah. That was one of the best take homes though as well. It's like all that the work we put in posing and everything like that. I felt amazing on stage. I felt like I could have posed for 10 rounds. Like the way we started pulling the fatigue, pulling the cardio and dropping the training volume intensity. Like it was all just like a perfect, it was perfect. It felt to me like the best prep. It's the best prep I've ever had. Oh, best prep I've ever had by far. Grow time, brother. Grow time.
There might be a posing ebook coming out soon as well that John might announce.
There is a posing ebook is coming, 100%. Periodizing the posing to, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, to maximize your potential on stage.
Periodized.
P. Yeah.
PP.
Yeah, PPPP. Periodizing posing protocol. I don't know, something like that.
And then periodized posing protocol. That's it.
Yeah, the periodized posing protocol. That's it. That's it. A lot of the time, people go on stage and then they get off and they're like, "Oh, it was a blur. Like, what the fuck? Like, don't really know what happened. I just was on stage and then before I knew it, I was off, and I won or I didn't win. But I was fully there, which was nice as well, because yeah, I think it just allows you to be much more like bring that personality on stage. You're actually aware of what's going on. Yeah. How do you work out like what macros to set someone off of, like to start someone off with off the back of a prep? Because obviously my calories came down to as low as like 1,700 calories. For a large portion of maybe like the last week and a half of that prep, I was around probably not much more than 2,000 at any one point. How do you like figure out that set point that you know it's not going to be too much, but it's enough?
So if you've got a bearing of where an individual's quote-unquote maintenance calories are, and appreciate maintenance calories are going to be a moving target relative to output. So if you're using like cardio steps, even like lipolytics, if someone's on Clen, T3, T4, whatever it might be, then that maintenance set point is going to change relative to the protocol. But in an ideal situation now, for you to enter that post-show phase in a position where you're starting to recover from the offset, you're not in a position where we're kind of in that self-fulfilling prophecy of restriction, and then we start to get issues with food, and we start binging patterns, etc., because your body's still very deprived, which happens a lot as well, whether people admit it or not, it does. My preferred approach is to just take someone straight back to maintenance immediately, or where you feel as though approximate maintenance calories are. So for you, if we look at the average across the week, it ends up at about 3,300. So training days at 3450, non-training days at 3120. If we look at your weight towards the back end of prep, that was 205 pounds, let's say. And then what I do there is I basically take that weight in pounds and times it by 15. And that will be a 3,233 mark for you. So, you know, on the tracker that we use for prep, where it has like your calories going out in a weekly order as we move through the process, all I do is I just basically go back to a point in prep where we pass maintenance calories moving into a deficit. We move back there, and that's going to be around that. If you look at body weight in pounds, it's going to be around the 13 to 15 times your body weight in pounds. So for you, it will be 205 times 13 to 15, which will give you a range of where you need to be.
No, it's good. It's interesting. So I think myself as a coach, I probably made the mistake of maybe starting to always pick people's calories up, but maybe I haven't picked them up enough, because then I'm getting people coming back to me that they binged probably more than I'd like to. So it's a take home from me that maybe I need to pick people's calories up a little bit more to, like you say, knock all them cravings on the head.
You're going to eat 2,600 and you're going to eat something else.
And you're going to eat more,
I'd rather just get you on 3,000 calories and get you in a position where you feel like you're on plan and in control.
And you don't feel like guilty.
Exactly. I'm going to wrap this recording up now, bro.
Yeah, wicked, bro. First 5 guys. She sniffed the back. Straight in. This is my first 5 guys. Since when did I have my last 5 guys? Literally 12 weeks out. So it's 13 weeks nearly since my last 5 guys. This is Hannah's creation, and it's actually amazing. Salted caramel with peanut butter, with bacon bits and whipped cream. It's so good. So I'm gonna get stuck into this. Here it is. Don't forget your sauces. Essential. So this one is, what's that one? I went for 2 little bacon cheeseburgers. Single patty means you taste the flavour more. So this one's got barbecue sauce and mayo with lettuce, tomato, grilled onions, grilled mushrooms, and bacon. And then this one's got ketchup, mustard, mayo, gherkins, grilled onions, and lettuce and tomato. Chips, good. Single-handed it. Burgers, good. Shake, good.